It's book haul time! I have this huge box full of books that I have bought. Two of them are for my sister and one of them is for my partner. I'm gonna put this down before I do my back in or something. But yeah, I bought a lot of books. I bought 17 books for myself, 2 for my sister and 1 for my partner. A big book haul. I've been on a book buying ban for a while, but let's be honest, I bought books anyway. And I was on the book buying ban for this specific reason. I knew that I was going to have this huge haul because I went to somewhere that sells discounted books. And yeah, I knew that I'd want to go around and buy as many as I could from the books that I wanted because it makes sense if I'm getting them cheaper. So yeah, I'm delighted to have fulfilled my second favourite hobby after reading books, which is buying books that I'll probably not read for at least another year. But probably I'll end up reading these ignoring the rest of my TBR because that's just typical Chloe behaviour. But let's go through every single book that I bought for myself, for my sister and the one book for my partner. So first, let's go through all of the books that I bought for myself, and then at the end I'll do a little additional what I got for my sister and my partner. So firstly, I got The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. It's such a pretty edition. I haven't read this book yet, which is crazy, but I feel like most people who have read this is because in English this was like their assigned book. So I'm pretty sure my sister's read this because for like higher English, that's what you had to read. Mine was To Kill a Mockingbird, so I just didn't get round to reading this, and I've heard that from a lot of people who aren't really into classics that it's not very good. But I have heard from other people that it's really good. So we'll see how I enjoy it. I feel like it's a book I need to read at some point. Like, I can't go my whole life not having read The Great Gatsby. So when I saw this pretty little cover, wait, let me show you it naked as well. It's the same naked as the dust cover. So it's super pretty, and yeah, it was £12, but I think I got it actually for like, I think it's like £3 something. So I was like, well, I might as well get the pretty cover and then I'll actually buy it and actually read it. So that's book number 1. The next book is Diary of an Auction Thief by Anonymous. I have heard so many clashing things about this book, and that is what desperately has made me want to read it, because I want to know what side I'm sitting on. Some people have said it's like groundbreaking and amazing, and other people are like it is like the worst book they've ever read. So I'm like, which of these two opposing views am I going to be on? I quite like reading controversial books and seeing where I lie on both sides, and then after reading it I quite like to look at other people's reviews and see, especially people on the other side of things, what they liked or disliked about it. So if I find a book 5 stars, I quite like reading 1-star reviews, or if I'm like 1-2 stars, I quite like reading like 5-star reviews, because I'm like, is there something there that like I missed? Is there something there that like I thought was good that other people didn't? It's really interesting because obviously books are subjective. But yeah, this one, I mean, I wasn't going to buy it unless I got it discounted because it is thin. It's like 150 pages and it's £9. So I was like, I'm not going to pay £9 for it. So I got it obviously for like £3 or whatever, worth it. I've never seen it discounted anywhere. I've only ever seen it in like Waterstones, and it's never in the buy one get one half price. So I was like, I'm either paying full price for this, getting it on Kindle, or just never reading it. So when I saw it discounted, I was like, well, I think this is my sign to get it. The next book is a book I've seen all over BookTube, Bookstagram, etc. And that is Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. I haven't read any of her books, but I've heard, I think she wrote like Better Than the Movies as well. And I've heard from people who are like really into romance that it's really good. And I've started trying to dip my toe into romance, and a lot of them can be quite messy for me, like I'm just not that into it. But there's other ones that have been quite hyped that I've really enjoyed, like Happy Place and It Happened One Summer. So I'm like, this one from booktubers I watch who specifically read a lot of romance has came highly recommended, and also I just think it's like a really cute, it's like a really cute cover, and I always like contrasting spines, and like I said, discounted. So I was like, I might as well use this opportunity to try out this new author and continue exploring the romance genre, and yeah, try and broaden my horizons for the genres that I read. The next book is also a romance book, and that is Good Girl Complex. From the premise of the book and the cover, I feel like this is one that I would want to read in summer. So I'm probably going to put this off until next year. It's September, so it is the start of spooky season, and I'm so excited. I'll have the ginger hair back soon and probably start wearing some, you know, autumny fits. This was somewhere in between because it is still hot. It's like 25 degrees in Scotland. What is going on? It's September. Calm down. But yeah, I'm like so excited for spooky season, for like spooky books, thrillers, or cozy kind of fantasy books with hot chocolate or tea or coffee and getting all snuggled up and cute. But the weather is still screaming summer, so either I read this now while the weather is like gaslighting me into thinking that it's July, or I wait until next year, and I'm not really sure which at the moment. But yeah, from the premise of this book, I didn't think that I would enjoy it. But like I said, I'm really wanting to open myself up to new genres and what I'm reading, because I didn't think I'd like, I know I've mentioned this before, I haven't done Somewhere in Happy Place, but I loved those books and I want to try new genres, new authors, etc. And again, this is a book that on Goodreads is pretty highly recommended. I think it's like 4 stars or something is like the average rating. So I was like, it could be a nice cozy read for summer, or if during winter I'm kind of upset about how dark it is and how dark it gets early, maybe this will brighten my mood a little bit. The next book that I got is one that I've seen a lot on Booksta, etc. as well, and I can't believe I've not read it yet, and it is Mexican Gothic. This is, I think, like a horror, historical fiction type vibe, and I'm here for it. I'm wanting to read more horror books, especially now we're getting into September, October. So I'm wanting like cozy witchy vibes or some horror books, as I've recently started reading like Stephen King and stuff, and I have been really enjoying that. I thought that I'd be too scared to read horror because like for horror movies I'm like, so it's weird because for horror books I'm like this but also having to read on. So it's this weird juxtaposition of being like, I want to keep going and I can't read anymore, and it's thrilling. I love it. So yeah, this is gonna be an interesting one, and also the cover is so pretty, and I know you're not meant to judge a book by its cover, but here I am judging. It comes highly recommended from a lot of bookstagrammers that I have similar reading tastes to, so I'm very excited to finally get round to reading this book, as I think I'm probably one of the only people who hasn't at this point. The next book that I got is one that I have had my eye on in the library for a while, but I've told myself I'm not taking any books out of the library until I start tackling my TBR a bit more. Because I'm a part of quite a lot of book clubs, so a lot of my reading is determined by that, which is normally not books from my shelves. So I'm like, if I'm reading books for my book club, and then I was taking like 3 books out of the library a month, I was barely reading my actual books for ages. So I was like, I'm not gonna take any books out. And then I saw this, and I was like, I could get it discounted, add it to my TBR, read it from my actual shelf and feel more accomplished than taking it out of the library. I do love the library though, I stand by the library, and I will be taking books out of there again soon once I get my TBR a bit down, but after adding 17 books, maybe it will be a while before I do that. So yeah, I'm really excited to read this book as well. If people would be interested in me going through books and like reading their blurb, then I could do that at some point, but yeah, I feel like we'd be here a wee while if I did that. The next book that I got is like a second chance romance book. I didn't think I liked Second Chance until I read Happy Place, and then I was like, actually, Second Chance ain't so bad. Like, I always found it a bit weird reading it. Before, I think there's one other book I'd read, I can't even remember the name of it, that was second chance romance, and I just like hated the whole premise of it. But I loved Happy Place, and I've seen this book recommended on BookTube as well, and also seen someone who wasn't sure if they liked it or not. And you know, like I said, I'm always drawn to kind of ones that's like, is this a good book? Is it not? And it is Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan. So it's funny how I say that I don't really read romance, but a lot of these books that I've picked for this haul have been romance books, and I found that romance is a great palate cleanser for me. A couple years ago, all I really read was like non-fiction or fantasy that's like chunky fantasy, it's like 800 pages, or I was reading like just quite serious books. And they're still my favourite kind of books, reading like those serious books that really make you think, like The Bell Jar and things like that, like a book that just makes you like stop in your tracks and think, that has beautiful writing and is sometimes a bit of a struggle to get through, especially sad books. I love reading those kinds of books, but I've found that I get burnt out quite quickly when that's all I read. And I've found romance, especially like one that's not too serious. I think this one is a bit serious, so technically not for this book, but for romance in general, it's like a lot easier to just flick through, and after a long day at work, chilling out doing it. The way that I kind of think about it is like reading is like watching and consuming other media too. So like, for example, watching movies. You're not going to want to sit and watch Oscar-winning films all the time. You sometimes need to sprinkle in like a silly action one that's just over the top, or you want to watch something that's a comedy or a rom-com or a thriller, a horror, anything like that. You're never going to want to just watch the same genre, so you're also never going to want to read the same genre. Like, I know that everyone has a kind of comfort genre, but I feel like if you only read one, it just gets a bit dull. There's only so many different things you can do with a book, especially if it's in the same genre. So I found branching out to be the best way to not get burnt out with reading. Because if you're in a reading slump, if you have access to so many different genres, each book is very different and it's easier to get out of the reading slump. That's why I've started reading like short books as well. I used to only buy big books because I was like, why would I buy a 100-page book that's the same price as an 800-page book? You're getting more pages for your money. You can tell I was a poor student at one point. But reading short books I found is such a good way to get out of a reading slump. So getting that, like, especially after a big book. So when I've read 800-page books, it's really hard to read another big book. But if you then pick up one that's like 150, 200, 300 pages or something, especially I guess like sub 300 pages because that's short, it's so easy to just flick through it, and then you get the sense of accomplishment of finishing it, and you're not getting as like sunk in deep into a big thick story. So yeah, basically that was a really long-winded way of saying I'm really glad that I've opened myself up to new genres, new authors, new even like sizes of books. So that is the 7th book out of 17. We're going to be here a wee while. Well, 17 for myself. The other 3 are for other people. The next one I got was the Mammoth Book of Cthulhu. As I mentioned, I'm wanting to read more horror, and I think this would be a great entryway into some horror sci-fi books. I have read like some horror sci-fi meeting books before. I've read quite a few ones by H.G. Wells, and I've read quite a few like zombie books and stuff like that, but that was like a couple years ago. I've not read anything like that recently actually. But yeah, I wasn't sure where to start with H.P. Lovecraft, and also he's a little bit, you know, hard to separate the artist from their work, but sometimes you need to do that. I am excited to read this book. I am not sure what to expect from it. I haven't really looked into reviews. I don't really know that much about it. And I think it's like short stories within it, as there's multiple authors and it's edited by someone. So I'm thinking it's like a collection of short stories around Cthulhu, which is something I think that was created by H.P. Lovecraft. I'm excited to go into a book blind. Sometimes I quite like to just not know anything about it. I picked this up because I knew of Cthulhu, and I knew I wanted to read more horror, and I was like, this seems like a good reason to do it. And also the cover like the colours and the prettiness of it. I was like, this just drew my eye, and I saw it and I was like, let's do it. But yeah, Chloe's reading more horror, woo! Next book is a box set of 4, which is ironic because one of the books in the series is called 4. So we've got the Divergent series. I have read this series before, but it was my sister's. So yeah, I've been wanting to reread like the kind of dystopian books that I read growing up. So I've got the Hunger Games series here, and I've got the Divergent series here. I had to buy them because I had read them from my sister. I didn't own them. When I saw this box set, I was like, it's a sign. Well, actually my partner saw it and he brought it over and he was like, do you want this? And I was like, I have been saying I'm not going to buy this series because I can just borrow it from my sister. But I was like, it's a sign. It's a sign to get this series myself, own it, and then reread it. So I'm thinking of doing like a little vlog where I read the Divergent series and the Hunger Games series and possibly some other series like Twilight for books that I read in my youth growing up and really enjoyed, and seeing how I feel about it now. If that's something people would be interested in me filming a vlog about, then please let me know, and you can see how I react to books that I was obsessed with when I was like 12, 13. I think as an adult, I don't know if they'll hold up. I'm not sure. I feel like Harry Potter held up pretty well. So hopefully it does hold up, because I adored these kinds of books when I was younger. And if I don't like it now, it is actually going to be a little bit heartbreaking. I'm sure I will, but that's something I'll only find out when I reread it. The next book is Anatomy, a Love Story. I'm pretty sure this is a historical fiction book, and it's Gothic as well. Yeah, it is. It's a Gothic tale full of mystery and romance, so I was like, perfect again for more of, I think, a slightly more light-hearted read, rather than reading just horror during September, October, etc. So I've also, on my Kindle, for Kindle Unlimited, downloaded some cute witchy books for, you know, the vibe. I was thinking this would be perfect. Also, the cover is just so pretty, and it came recommended by Neil Gaiman, which for me is high praise. I love Neil Gaiman. So when he was like, this is a good book, the cover is pretty, and the vibes are vibing for the time of year we're in, I was like, I need to get this book. I just need to. Like, it would be a crime not to. And that's how I felt about all the books. I think I actually held back quite well, only buying 17 books. I could have bought like 100. And I held back. I bought 17. I'm proud of myself. If I told people that I bought 17 books, they'd be like, you bought 17 books? But I'm like, I bought 17 books, I'm proud of myself. The next book is another romance book, shocker, and that is The Soulmate Equation by Christina Lauren. I've never read Christina Lauren, and I've wanted to get my hands on a book of hers for a while now, because in the romance like genre, the big authors that people are always talking about are like Colleen Hoover, Emily Henry, and she comes up a lot as well, Christina Lauren. Like, I see her books all the time on Booksa and on BookTube, and I've not read any of them. So when I saw the premise of this book, I think I saw get discussed by Haley Fan. I think there's a few booktubers that have mentioned this book, and from the premise of it, I actually thought it sounded quite interesting. So it's using science to like pair up people, and you're meant to be a scientific good match. So like Tinder, but it's like, oh, you two will be good together scientifically based off of your profiles. And there's this girl who matches with, I think it's like the CEO of the company that uses the soulmate equation to find a partner. So they need to appear as like working really well in a relationship so that it looks good for the CEO and his company. And I'm guessing they're gonna fall in love. Like, I feel that's the premise of most romance books. It's like, I don't like you, forced proximity, now I like you. But even though I know what happens when they get together, it's like you're just kind of like kicking your feet like, oh my god. And I love that feeling. So I'm excited to read this book for a bit more of a light-hearted read. Who knows though? Maybe it won't happen like as expected. We'll see. Also, pretty book. I really like the colour and like the heart into the DNA. It's so sweet. I feel like also as a woman who's in STEM, any book that has anything to do with STEM, I'm like, count me in. Unless it's by Ali Hazelwood. And then count me out. The next book that I got is the first book that I picked up while I was there. So I was there with my friend Amy, and she wanted this book as well. And it was funny because we were walking down some of the aisles and it was only the children's books that we'd saw so far. And then I saw this book and I was like, oh my gosh, and she was like, oh my gosh, that's on my list too. And it was this really cute, like, oh, this is going to be such a good book haul session. And yeah, that is The 7 Moons of Mali Almeida. Watch me struggle saying it. I don't know how to pronounce that. I probably should have looked that up beforehand. It's fine. How badly could I have butchered it? But yeah, the cover of this book, again, love it. Also, it's a hardback, and the hardbacks based off of like the discount there ended up only being, I think, between like $3.50 and $5 and stuff like that. And I was like, I need it. Like, it's not a want, it's a need. And this, as it says here, was the Booker Prize 2022 winner. So obviously we're in 2023. I saw a lot about this book last year and the start of this year, where people were rounding up the books that they'd read in 2022 and picking the best ones that they recommend you read. And this was one of them. I've had my eye on this as well, that has been in the library, but when I saw the hardback in this warehouse, I was like, I need to buy it. I need it. It's a requirement. And this made me so happy when I found it, because I was like, yay, I'm going to find so many books, and I found 17. It was a good day. It was a good day. We only have 2 books left from my own book haul. I'll give a brief mention to the other 3 that I got. The penultimate one is The Spirit Engineer. I'm an engineer. I had to buy it, you know? It is a requirement. Any book that says engineer on it, I'm like, well, that's me, guess I need to buy it. But yeah, it's so pretty. I saw it and I was like, I need it. It is a requirement. Again, so many of these books were required. It's so pretty. I also, the name of it, The Spirit Engineer, I was like drawn to it immediately. I read the blurb and I was like, this is the vibe. It's like a horror sci-fi kind of book, I'm pretty sure. And as I said, reading horror, we're in September, I'm wanting to read horror books and kind of cozy books like that. I know horror's technically not cozy, but it kind of is. As in, it's perfect for cozy nights in. But yeah, let's be honest, the main reason I bought this was the cover and the name. It just so happens that the story sounds good too, and I'm really grateful for that. The final book is a book that I can't believe I haven't read yet. I haven't actually read anything by this author, Celeste. I don't know if it's Ng or NG or whatever, but I just call her Celeste normally, and I don't think I've ever heard anyone actually say her name out loud. Again, maybe I should have looked this up. Anyway, this is like a really nice paperback cover of it. It's like hardback sized, as you can see here. And it's just like, it feels nice, you know? It's like quite floppy. We love a floppy book. It's just nice. And I've heard so much about this author and their books, and that they're really, really good. And this book specifically, I've seen recommended a lot, so I was like, I feel like I need to get it. I've not read Little Fires Everywhere, which is crazy. I feel like everyone's read that as well. I might have actually seen that when I was there, but forgot to pick it up. I guess I need to go back and buy more books, oh no. But yeah, that's the final book that I got for myself. So now just a quick little note of the books that I got for other people. So firstly, let's go through the book that my partner picked up, and that is Butterfly Skin. From the premise of the book, it actually sounds really interesting. He's mostly into like thriller books and stuff. So this is about a serial killer, and I love books about serial killers in general. I find them really interesting, and he stalks female victims. There's this girl who is a young editor of an online newspaper who wants to entrap him and further her own career. So I think this just sounds super interesting. I'm not going to read more of the blurb than that because we're saving time here, and also it's not my book. I mean, it will be. It's getting added to my shelves and my Excel spreadsheet, and I will probably read it. Technically it is also mine, let's be honest. But yeah, this is the one book that my partner picked up, which is crazy when you think I picked up 17 books. While I was there, I was looking for books for my sister and my dad. Sadly, I didn't find any for my dad because he owns over 600 books. And I was like, sending pictures like, I think you'd read like this, and I'm pretty sure you read this author, and blah blah blah. And every single picture I sent, he's like, I've got it, I've got it, I've got it, I've got it. And I'm like, how do you buy a book for the man that owns all of them? How? But I did manage to find 2 books for my sister, and the first one is one from the Shadowhunter series, which I haven't read, which I think is a crime. I haven't read any Cassandra Clare. Again, a crime. I might borrow those books from my sister and do a little reading vlog for that. So she doesn't own this book and she hasn't read it, and when I sent her it, she seemed really excited about it, so I'm really glad that I managed to pick this up and I'm excited to give it to her. And the other book I picked up for her was The Accomplice by Steve Cavanagh. I also haven't read any Steve Cavanagh. Another massive fail for me as a reader. How have I not read these authors yet? It seems like, oh my gosh, they're like the biggest authors? Yeah, I'm not going to read any books by them. There's a reason these books are hyped, Chloe, and it's normally because they're good. But yeah, I really want to read Steve Cavanagh, and I want to start from, there's like a specific series. I know 13 is in that series, I don't know the start of it, but I know I want to start from the start and read them all the way through, and I'm pretty sure my sister or my dad owns all of them. So I will get around to reading it eventually. My sister has read this book but doesn't own it. So when I sent her a picture, she was like, gimme. She is just as bad as me, if not worse, for buying books, which makes me feel a whole lot better about myself. I think if she went, she would have came away with more than 17 books. She would have came away with like 40. We both have a problem, and obviously my dad with his more than 600 books. It's a family of problems. We love that for us. Anyway, thank you for tuning in to my book haul video. I am so excited to be filming one of these. These are one of my favourite types of videos to watch, and I like to use them as a way of finding new books or getting book recommendations. I hope you enjoyed me rambling about the books that I picked up, and hopefully I'll be reading them soon and will be adding them to some of my wrap up videos. Anyway, thank you, bye!